Hello, this is the second lesson of the unit Novel Fibers and Yarns for Textile and Fashion Industry. In the lesson, short description of all basic yarn spinning systems, including spinning of multi-filament and fancy yarns, will be presented. The most often used and new technologies of fancy yarns development will be presented too. All textile yarns can be divided into three groups: single, play, and novel yarns. Each of those three groups consists of several kinds of textile yarns. Group of the spoon yarns is one of the largest. Spoon yarns can be made using short staple, long staple, and other spinning systems. Ring spinning is the oldest spinning process of the present day. Modification of ring spinning frame by using additional roller in the drafting zone allows to spin yarns with evener structure that Ritter named as COM4. Ring spinning is comparatively expensive process because of its slower production speeds and the additional processes, rowing and winding. Open-end spinning methods overcome these problems by separating twisting and winding processes. The polymeric filament yarns can be spun using melt, wet, or dry spinning technologies and techniques. Design of new yarns is a very actual field of today's textile industry. The novel yarns are designed and produced for decorative purposes and are seldom used to make an entire fabric. Fancy yarns can be with evenly distributed or periodic effects, also with other effects. Let's start from the fancy yarns with evenly distributed effects. Very popular and widely used fancy yarns with evenly spread effects are marl, spiral, and gimp yarns. Boucle, fascinate, and chenille yarns from the same group are with even more interesting effects. Boucle effect on the yarn can only be achieved when effect component is transported to the twisting zone with the overfeed. In this case, delivery speed of the effect yarn is bigger than the core yarn, so effect component form tidally or loosely placed waves on the core component. Chenille yarns are made by cutting fibers helically disposed around two axial yarns. These fibers can be of different colors. Sloop, loop, snarl, knot, button, and other fancy effects depend to the group of periodically distributed effects. Sloop fancy yarns are manufactured by making thick places distributed periodically along the yarn. Sloops can be made from the same or different raw material or color fibers than the basic of the fancy yarn. Loop fancy yarns are very popular, made by wrapping with overfeed the effect component around the core component. In this case, the same or different dimensions loop are formed. The binder component stabilizes effects. Loops can be closed or open. If degree of the overfeed of the effect component is very big, or the effect component has very high twist, the snarl yarns are obtained. Not fancy yarns are with small or big, mostly twisted effects of one or row of components arranged at regular or irregular intervals. When effect component, usually roving or silver, is covered up the core component, button fancy yarns is obtained. Fancy yarns with nap or flag effects have unique structure. They are made using different kind, length, or color material together with the main material. A mixing of different fibers mostly is preparing in carding machines. Tape yarns are made using braiding, warp, or weft knitting. Nowadays, this group of fancy yarns is very popular. Metallic yarns are obtained when slit laminated films are wrapped around the core. They are used not only in the usual products, sweaters or decoration of woven fabrics, but also in functional socks, including sportswear. There are a lot of possibilities to use several types of different fancy yarns together and make yarns of complex structure. Ring twisting, hollow spindle, chenille, air-jet texturizing, or knitting with a small number of needles knitting machines are used for manufacturing of fancy yarns. Nowadays, the novel effects are brought about by a programmed difference in twist level or input rate in one or more components during the production of the fancy yarns. The fancy yarn gives a fancy touch to the fabric to a broad range of end users. Significant demand for the fancy yarns is in the ladies and children outerwear production. Fancy yarns are essential components of modern fashion and are gaining more importance in the clothing, furnishing, and drapery sectors. Thank you for your attention.